Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to one of the most insane chess games I have ever seen. Now, yes, I have probably started about 10 videos that way, but in 2023, this is definitely an early candidate for the craziest chess game of the year. It features a monarch imprisoned in the enemy ranks, and it's just got so many insane plot twists that it looks like a Guess the ELO episode, except the average ELO of the players is something like 2,400. So if you're wondering why I didn't start the video full screen, it's because I'm currently in California. I do not live in California. I have been to California probably about 5 times. I am here for the Streamer Awards. I was at YouTube HQ yesterday. Lucy is right there and has to tolerate my recordings as always. But the grind never stops. Finding incredible chess games never stops. And sharing them with you also never stops. So we are in a random city somewhere in the Midwestern United States, which basically accounts for about 30 states and 30, not 30, but many other types of cities. And we are in a round robin chess tournament for a Grandmaster norm. With white, we have Alder Escobar Forero, who's a Colombian Grandmaster. And with black, we have Tianqi Wang, who I actually played myself a long time ago. The game begins with a Caro-Kann defense, which, you know, game of the year candidates very rarely start with a Caro-Kann defense. They almost always start with a Sicilian or some other crazy opening, but it's a Caro-Kann. White plays the move d4, and black plays the move d5, and I mean, so far, right, it's a matter of what is white going to do? I mean, we just saw an insane game with a checkmate in like 20 moves by force, and that was e5, bishop f5, and then h4, which is one of the most insane lines that you can play in the Caro-Kann defense, but this time we have knight c3. I have been playing the Caro for like a decade. I have never had a wild game after knight c3. I mean, I just have back and forth games and interesting games, but I have never had a banger, as the kids say, on God. No cap, all right, with the skull emoji and everything at the end. I've never had one of those. So that, you know, we have DE knight e4, and now the main line is bishop f5 attacking the knight, but recently a lot more title players, including myself, play the move knight to f6, immediately inviting this exchange and taking like this. That's because we're stupid and we're deviant and we got too strong at chess, so now we break all the principles. You're not really supposed to double your pawns. Like look at, like, black has no center pawns anymore, just no D and E pawns, just, you know. But this is a line, and it's called the Tartakower variation. Essentially, the idea is that black will just play bishop d6 and castle and build a pawn wall, and it's not as bad as it looks. In this position, white plays the main line for a few moves, which is first to play the move c3. This move has two ideas. The first idea is to defend the center and enable the move bishop to d3 so the pawn is protected. The second idea is to put the queen on c2, where along with the bishop on d3, they will form a battery onto the pawn on h7, and so if black castles, you can attack that pawn. So black plays bishop d6, white plays bishop d3, black plays knight a6. Knight a6 is a very rare move. Most people here just play the move short castle, and then white will play queen c2, and then black will find a way to defend this pawn, either with h5 or h6 or g6 or rook e8 check, or there's even a move f5. Recently, h5 has become very popular. Again, just a bunch of deviants, you know, underground, hip artists who basically graffiti city establishments and then say it's an art form. That's essentially what h5 is. It's very stupid looking. I've played it myself, though, with black, with no success whatsoever. Like, I mostly lose the games, but at least I'm deviant and cool and edgy, and my friends think I'm interesting. Yeah, this is a much more compact solution. But knight a6, right? And so the point of knight a6, I would imagine, is probably to put it on b8 and then put it on a normal square and just sort of ask why I ever put it on a6 in the first place. But in reality, the idea of knight a6 is to go knight c7 and then probably go back to a6 and put it back on b8 and put it on a normal square and wonder why you wasted that time in the first place. Again, as I said, like, none of this really makes any sense if you're trying to teach this to a beginner. Like, if I had a 5-year-old that just sort of developed pieces like this, I would yell at them and I would tell their parents that they're not studying chess enough. But it's a very legitimate way to play. You can play knight c7. You can then put a knight on d5. It's really not as dumb as it looks. White now plays knight e2. He's playing knight e2 because he basically always wants to play queen c2, and he's waiting for his opponent to castle, and his opponent is just refusing to castle. He's just not castling. Which is, like, I imagine in a boxing match or a mixed martial arts match, like, you prepare for somebody, they play a certain way, they do a certain thing, and all of a sudden they're just not doing that thing anymore, and they're doing a different thing. I would imagine that you get very confused why your opponent is not castling, because if you continue to play moves like queen to c2, target, like he's just never going to castle. And he might even castle the other way. He might just keep his king in the center of the board. I mean, he's just not castling. So Escobar Ferrero plays bishop f4 because his logic is, okay, there's going to be a trade here. I'm going to improve my position and so on and so forth. Now, if you have a very bad attention span and all those videos on your sidebar are looking really appealing, whether they're about sport or, I don't know, the most recent Mr. Beast video or whatever it might be, just bear with me for a second. I can't embellish the opening in any sort of fake capacity. This is a game between two very good chess players. Nobody's going to be losing in the first 9 moves, although in my previous video at 2500 was losing in 7. And now it gets really goofy. So the first goofy move now occurs, which is the move h5. You might remember that a couple of moves ago I said black usually plays h5 when this pawn is under attack. That pawn is not under attack in any way, shape, or form. This is basically black just doing the chess equivalent of having a bit of a tantrum. Black could have played many other moves like knight d5 or developed the bishop out or played f5 and tried to, I don't know. But h5 is wild. This is the, and this is how you know that we're going to have a banger. So bishop d6, queen d6, and Ferrero basically has absolutely no respect for this pawn advancing. Just no respect at all. If I'm playing white here, you know what I'm going to do? I might play h3 to prevent bishop g4 and also prevent the pawn from getting to h3. Then I might castle, or I might try to castle that way. Yeah, he just plays knight g3. Let me tell you right now, knight g3 is an extremely provocative move because it does not take a rocket scientist to figure out what black is trying to do. Black is trying to play the move h4. And it's essentially like waving a red flag in front of a bull. That's what Ferrero did here. He stood up during a chess game, took out a red cloth and waved it in front of Tianqi, who proceeded to call over the arbiter and wonder what narcotics his opponent had induced prior to the game. But that's basically what's going on. He's allowing h4, and then as a byproduct, he will probably also allow h3. But his idea was to give a check, which is really a tremendous move that black just, he doesn't even block, right? There's 3 ways to get out of a check. You can capture the piece, you can block the check, and you can move your king. And moving your king is a last resort, but in this case, it's actually a very legitimate move, and the king will find a very nice shelter behind his barricade of pawns. And not to mention, when the rook gets to e8 in the future, you will be pinning the queen to the king. So knight e4, and Tianqi just puts the queen back on its home square. And since Ferrero does not like the prospect of castling short, he castles long, and the black king is now going to find that shelter on the g7 square. The white king slides over to b1, just almost always a useful move, and here comes Tianqi a5. Clearly, the player with the black pieces was trained in the school of crabs for chess. The crab, of course, being the opening, which is h5, a5, or a4, h4. This is just essentially a glorified crab attack. I mean, basically, no matter where you're safe, I'll get, no matter where you think you're finding shelter, I will get you. I mean, this is disgusting, frankly. Like, if this game was played in the 17th century, if black played this move, they would just come, pause the clock, take him out, put a brick on his leg, and throw him in the water because they thought he was a witch. This is essentially that. And I mean, the fact that the computer thinks that it's balanced is just heinous and shows you that everything that we originally thought we knew about chess, we absolutely do not. And by the way, he just plays a4 on the next move. There's nothing there. I mean, maybe he'll play a3, maybe he won't. Maybe white should play a3. It's never clear here. Like, does white play a3? Does white play h3? Whatever. But as you can see, the game is really heating up. And now we have rook g1, and Tianqi does, in fact, not play a3. He plays the move knight to d5, allowing white to play a3. As it turns out, the computer really liked this, because black really should respond. If you don't respond, then, for instance, I will take this is weak and you help me open up my rook. So that's a completely horrible decision for white, as you can see from the eval bar. So knight d5, we have a3, and now we have king to g7. I mean, both sides are making very mild inaccuracies according to the computer, but they're still sort of fulfilling all of their objectives in the position, which is black putting the king on g7 and preparing some attack, and kings are on opposite sides, which means it's going to be a very chaotic game. White now plays the move queen f3. And in this position, this is deemed a mistake by the computer because now black can play f5, and when the knight is booted, black can now just launch an attack with b5. That is what the computer wants. It wants f5, it wants b5, and it thinks that black is essentially just, winning the game. After queen f3, f5 happens. So knight d2, but instead of b5, black plays the move h3. Now, I don't dislike the move h3. Essentially, the move h3 was played so that white would not ever take. So, for instance, maybe something like this, and black just didn't like the prospect of having a rook staring at a pawn in front of a king, which makes sense. So black played the move h3. White played the move knight c4, looking to take advantage of various dark squares and also create an attack of his own. Black played the move knight back to f6, looking to get in on the light squares over here. Queen d5 maybe in the future, bishop e6 in the future, and so on and so forth. As you can see, the tension is bubbling. It's a 0-0-0 position. Queen e6, f3, and now queen d5. And black is making all active operations, and now b5, and it's go time. Okay. So remember a long time ago how the person playing with white essentially waved a red flag in front of black? Well, that's sort of what's about to happen. Because in this position, if you move your knight, the queen and the bishop will come down to a2, and it looks like the white king is going to be evicted, and all the pawns will fall, and black will win the game. The only way to avoid the queen coming down here is to think of a concept called danger levels and play the move rook to e5. The problem with rook to e5 is it does in fact look like you will lose some big degree of material, but you don't, because if this attacking the queen, I give a check. If you block, I take that. So that doesn't work. Rook e5 has to be played here, and then, you know, there is no infiltration. Yeah, he just allows it. He just allows the move queen a2. He just allows the move queen a2. Not only that, he allows the move queen a1, and now bishop to b1. What is going on? I think you're beginning to see the first and early signs of the queen being in jail. The queen is just now not allowed out. The only piece that can help the queen is the bishop. And if you do that, I'm just going to go here. And I think what white anticipated here was a draw by repetition. Repetition meaning bishop a2, king c2, because it's impossible to just play chess like this when you have no queen. How can you play an entire game of chess with no queen? Like this. What? What is he doing? How is this possible? How after knight takes d5 and c takes d5 is black winning? How is it -2? Like, c d5, yeah, how, what? But the queen can't. If the bishop goes here, we already know it's just going to be this. Now, yes, let's say white plays, g4. There's bishop a2, there's king c2. If you give a check, there's this, and the queen can escape. But by the time the queen is escaping, it's white that's delivering the checkmate. So how on earth is black winning? I don't understand. And I think in the game, white also did not understand. And I think in the game, black also, despite maybe having certain suspicions, also did not fully understand. Why is this position winning for black? Well, queen e5 check. I mean, the guy with black is literally playing with no queen and yet is -4. What? So the king goes to g8, which apparently is an inaccurate move. I think king h7 here was preferred by the computer. And if something like queen f6, apparently black can just play like this and this. And rook c3 is just on the way, and it turns out the queen actually does have a lot of help. The idea being to play rook c3, bc3, queen c3, and actually white has mated. And if it's not that, then, you know, I'll take on a3, and then I'll chase your king out, and I'm still winning. So, by some completely insane miracle, it's winning for black. We have queen e5 check, we have this, and white plays queen d6, and black is now completely winning the game after the move rook c8. Rook c3, queen c3 is now a foregone conclusion. The only way to defend that is either to isolate your queen here, but then black continues with rook c4, or to play the move rook e3, and now the move b4 is just lights out. Why is it lights out? The move b4 is completely winning, because if you take with the a pawn, I do this. If you take with the c pawn, I take your king, and if you play queen takes b4, which is basically the only move, I just play king g7. What an absolutely brilliant game from the gentleman playing with the black pieces. What a clinic. What a game. Rook e7, rook c4, the queen goes to a5, and now all black needs to do is play rook c8 and sack on c3, and what a game. Queen in jail. He bails the queen out by understanding piece play and dynamics and rescuing the queen, and he plays rook to a8, and he throws away the entire game. What? What? Rook a8? How is that throwing away the entire game? The idea of rook a8 is relatively straightforward. The idea of rook a8 is that you are forcing the queen away from the rook, check, and it's mate. It's mate in a few moves. What black had missed was that after rook a8, white will play rook takes f7. You want to sacrifice a rook? I can do it even better than you. Rook takes f7, king to h6, and now g4. And now it actually turns out that white might be winning this game. This is completely insane. There is a hanging queen and there is a queen in prison. Folks, g4 is completely ludicrous. If you take the queen, I have g5, king h7, rook h7 mate. What are we even looking at? What the hell is this position? Look at this. There is a queen in prison, and this is here. How does that make any sense? So we have king g5. Now white plays the move f4 check. G takes f5, excuse me. G takes f5 check. And the king runs to f4, and black is winning again. The only way for white not to lose here was to play f4. The point is that after this, now white plays pawn takes f5, and if you take my queen, I have pawn takes and a ladder mate in the center of the board. I have never seen something like this ever in my life. This is completely ridiculous. The king is just walled off. There is absolutely nothing. So g takes f5 check, king to f4, and now f takes g6, and the king runs in, and black is winning. The king has ran all the way here. This is completely nuts. King f2, there are no more checks. There are no more checks. Black is winning. And now, apparently, rook e1 is the only way to continue to try to make a draw. There is this possibility. You have rook takes a5, and then you have check, you have here, you have check, you have here, and g7. And the point is, the queen is just simply in prison. If bishop here, I have king d2. If you take with check, I just block, and I'm queening. This is completely, this is crazy. And instead of that, white, instead of playing rook ge1, plays rook e1, and now white is lost again, because after this check, the black king runs king e3, rook e1, king f4, rook g. Wait a minute. Is black winning? King takes f3. Now the rook is hanging, rook g3. The king comes back, and now we have rook e3, and the king is in a box. Bishop d1. Bishop d1. What even is this position? This position looks like it should be in a chess museum. Bishop d1. The king cannot take because this, and the rook is covered on f3, so white plays g7. That is the only move now. Black plays rook to b5. Checkmate is essentially on the way. And now Ferrero plays b. Okay. Black can take the pawn with check, but then white would be winning because queen b3, there is just bishop c. This is completely nuts. What are we even looking at? Bishop c2, b4 played, and black goes back to stop the queen, but now white plays king takes d1, queen takes b1 check, king d2 check. Here, this has to be a draw, right? No, black sacrifices the rook, takes, rook d3, check on a1, king c2, queen a2, king d1, check here. And now in this position, the winning move has to be d4. After d4, everything is covered and white is out of moves. Completely out of moves. If you queen, I take the rook. You can't move anywhere. If you go here, I'll check you. I'll take this rook. d4 wins the game, and instead of that, we get this. And after rook c3, black cannot stop the loss of a queen or getting mated again. So he gives a check. He comes in with his rook. But after rook c2 takes, the g7 pawn is queening. And the only thing black can do now is to repeat moves and make a draw. But you can also play queen takes h, attacking the rook. But the rook goes here, and there is no check. You can give me a discovered check, but I just go here, and by a just complete miracle of God, this queen cannot check this king anywhere except here and here. Queen h1 check, and now king moves up, apparently to the wrong square, okay? apparently to the wrong square. Why to the wrong square? Because king A1, king A2, H2 is a winning idea for black. After this, white has the move queen E4 and is apparently making a queen. If the king had gone to B2 instead, apparently that's better, because if H2 is played in this position, there is this, some sort of check, and the king is just better on the square that it currently is, rather than being on A2 where it could be subjected to some checks. Folks, this was one of the most insane games of chess I have ever seen. It featured a queen that wandered into the territory of the opponent and just sat there as an absolutely apocalyptic series of events was occurring. The black king running up the board, essentially on the move that he was about to get, win the game. Rook c8 is just game over, and black goes here. His king is evicted. There is a threat of getting mated by a pawn. The king runs down to f2. I mean, what are we even looking at? Only for this game to conclude by a repetition of moves as white is up a rook and about to promote a pawn. I mean, what do you want me to... I mean, what... This was completely ridiculous. And I had to share it with all of you. So, I will now throw on a nice suit and go to the streamer awards. When you're watching this video, I'm probably on a plane. So, write something nice for me in the comments. Maybe I'll check it if I get internet on the 7-hour flight back to New York. And I'll read your comment. Maybe it'll make me feel good. Give me a congratulatory message if I won the award, and you're allowed to make fun of me if I did not. But I will be very sad. So, yeah, that's all. Get out of here.